All right, what if I told you that you could learn pretty much any new skill? I'm talking guitar, a new language, you name it, in less than 24 hours of actual practice. I know it sounds totally impossible, right? But stick with me because there's a specific 5-step blueprint that makes it happen. And in this explainer, I'm going to walk you through that exact blueprint step by step. So, we've all heard of that dreaded 10,000-hour rule, right? The one that says you need to dedicate like a decade of your life just to become an expert at something. It's intimidating. But here's the secret, the thing they don't tell you. You don't need to be an expert, you just need to be good. And the journey from I have no idea what I'm doing to, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this, well, that takes way, way less time than you'd ever imagine. Okay, so here's the roadmap for how we're going to get you there. First, we'll bust that 10,000-hour myth for good. Then we'll dive into the learning curve, map out your skill tree, get into the power of deliberate practice, and finally, build a killer feedback loop. All right, let's dive right in and tackle the biggest mental block that holds most of us back. See, the problem isn't that you don't have enough time to learn something new. No way. The real problem is that we've all been taught to use our time, well, really inefficiently. I mean, does this hit a little too close to home? Let's be real. So many of us spent 4 years in high school Spanish class, and what can we do? Barely order a coffee. That, right there, is what's called the efficiency gap. It's perfect proof that just putting in the hours means absolutely nothing if your strategy is all wrong. You'd probably learn more from a few weeks just living in Mexico than you did in all 4 of those years combined. And here's a big reason why that's true. Just imagine this for a second. You've got 2 people, and they both practice for a total of 24 hours. Person A spreads that time out over an entire year, just dabbling here and there. Person B, on the other hand, crams those 24 hours into just 10 focused days. Who do you think gets better? It's a no-brainer, right? That intense, concentrated practice, it literally forces your brain to sit up, pay attention, and start building those crucial connections, even when you're sleeping. Okay, so this idea of concentrated practice leads us right into the core concept of learning fast. To really accelerate your progress, you've got to understand the natural shape of how we all learn anything. And this is it. This is the S-shaped learning curve. Seriously, every single new skill you learn will follow this exact path. You start out and it feels painfully slow. Then all of a sudden, you hit this period of explosive growth. And finally, things start to level off as you get closer to mastery. The whole secret is just knowing how to navigate these different phases. The really important part to understand is the difference between those first 2 phases. That first bit, the tail, man, it feels like you're just slogging through mud. It's the grind. And honestly, this is where almost everyone quits because it feels like you're going absolutely nowhere. But this is where that concentrated practice works its magic. It's the rocket fuel that pushes you through that frustration, hits that inflection point, and launches you straight into that amazing rapid growth phase. So check this out. 1,000. What in the world could this number have to do with learning a new skill? Well, that's the number of the most common words in the Spanish language. And get this is mind-blowing. Just by knowing those 1,000 words, you can understand about 85% of everyday, normal conversation. That is the S-curve in action. The biggest, most massive gains happen right at the beginning. So forget about trying to master 100,000 words. Focus on that first 1,000, and you're pretty much conversational. It's amazing. Okay, that's great for Spanish, but how do we find the 1,000 words for, say, learning the guitar or coding? Well, it all starts with creating a map. You gotta have a plan. Otherwise, you're just wandering around in the dark. So I want you to think of any complex skill like a skill tree from a video game. At the very top, you've got your main goal. Let's say, I don't know, get a girlfriend. But to get there, you've got to unlock the branches underneath, right? Things like communication skills, confidence, stuff like that. I had this friend once who wanted to learn Spanish to talk to this one specific girl at a bar. Turns out, she already spoke perfect English. He was spending all his energy on the tiniest, most useless little twig on the entire tree. He totally missed the point. And that brings us to a super important, kind of counterintuitive point. Your first 2 hours of learning anything new should involve 0 practice. Yep, you heard me, 0. Those first couple of hours are for pure research. You need to study the absolute best people in the field, and even more importantly, you need to study their coaches. Your job is to draw out that entire skill tree and then pinpoint the 3 sub-skills that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, the lowest hanging fruit. All right, so now you've got your map. You know what to practice. But now comes the critical part, knowing how to practice. This is the stage where most people get stuck, sometimes for years, and they never ever get any better. This is what we call the okay plateau, and you've seen this a million times. It's the person who's been playing the same 5 chords on the guitar for a decade. Or maybe it's your dad who, after 30 years, still types with just 2 fingers. They're doing the thing, but they're not getting any better at it. Why? Because the practice is mindless. Their brain is basically on autopilot. And here is a fundamental law you just have to accept. If your practice feels easy and comfortable, you are literally wasting your time. It's that simple. Think about it like going to the gym. Your muscles don't grow unless you push them until they're sore, right? Your brain is exactly the same. That feeling of being frustrated, of struggling, that's not a bad thing. That is what growth actually feels like. So here's a really practical way to structure this. Let's call it the 40-20 rule. For every hour you practice, spend the first 20 minutes in your comfort zone. Warm up, review the basics. But for those last 40 minutes, you have to be pushing your boundaries. You have to be tackling challenges that are just a little bit beyond what you can currently do. This kind of deliberate practice is what allows you to self-edit. There's this great story about a young tennis player who, in the middle of a match, was literally taking notes on index cards between points. He was analyzing every single swing. He wasn't just playing tennis, he was coaching himself in real time. It's like he was juggling 3 balls at once. 1, he knew exactly what the pros looked like. 2, he was brutally honest about where he was in comparison. And 3, with every single shot, he was actively trying to close that gap. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. The 5th step. This is the secret ingredient that really turbocharges this whole process. It's simple. Your rate of learning is directly tied to the speed of your feedback. Think about studying for a big test. The worst thing you can do is answer 50 questions and then check your answers at the end. The right way? Do 1 question and check it immediately. It's not about getting the answer right or wrong. It's about knowing right now if your thought process was on the right track. The faster you can see your mistakes, the faster you improve, period. And to make this whole thing less stressful, try adopting what's called the 1,000 experiments mindset. Stop thinking about it as practice, which has all this pressure attached to it. Instead, think of it as just running a series of small, low-stakes experiments. This totally removes the need to be perfect and shifts your focus to just discovering what works. You become like Thomas Edison. The faster you can run your experiments and see what fails, the faster you get to that light bulb moment. Okay, so let's put it all together. Here is your 24-hour blueprint, plain and simple. Step 1, spend your first 2 hours on research, not practice, to map out your skill tree. Step 2, from that map, pick out the 3 most high-impact subskills. Step 3, practice deliberately, ideally for about 90 minutes a day, using that 40-20 rule to keep pushing yourself. And finally, step 4, build the fastest possible feedback loop you can into that practice. And that's it. That's the whole system. It's simple, it's incredibly powerful, and it absolutely works. So you now have the blueprint. The only question left is what's the one skill you're going to master first?